Imagine the chilling opening of this tale. A seemingly ordinary woman sits quietly for her mugshot, her wide eyes betraying the terror beneath her calm expression. But this isn't just any arrest photo. It's 1947, and Laura Belle Devlin has just committed one of the most horrifying acts of domestic violence ever seen in Newark, Ohio. With a hacksaw, Laura murdered and dismembered her elderly husband, Frank, disposing of him piece by piece, some parts in a wood stove, others buried in the backyard. The town was left in shock as they uncovered the dark secret hidden behind the walls of their peaceful home. This haunting photo of Devlin marks the beginning of an unsettling journey through history's most disturbing crimes, where ordinary people committed extraordinary horrors. As we delve deeper, the facade of normalcy breaks away, revealing the unsettling truth lurking beneath. What drives someone to such madness? And how did society react to the monstrous acts of someone who, until that point, seemed like just another neighbor? This is the story of Laura Belle Devlin, but it's also a window into the human capacity for darkness, a capacity that would shake even the most hardened investigators. Stay tuned, because this is just the beginning. The Civil War was a devastating conflict, but the violence didn't stop when the battlefields went quiet. This haunting photo from April 1865 shows African-American workers collecting the remains of soldiers who perished near Cold Harbor, Virginia. Their grim task was to gather the bones of the fallen, whose bodies had been left exposed for months under the sun, rain, and soil. The skeletal remains they load onto stretchers are a silent reminder of the brutality of war, where life could be reduced to bones scattered across a field. The Battle of Cold Harbor, fought in 1864, was one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War. Thousands of Union soldiers were cut down in mere minutes during a frontal assault, many of whom were left to rot on the battlefield for almost a year. In the aftermath, the monumental task of cleaning up the devastation often fell to African-American laborers, who worked tirelessly to offer some form of dignity to the dead, many of whom remained unidentified. It's a heartbreaking scene, the echoes of the dead still present in their tattered uniforms. As they exhumed these soldiers, they weren't just uncovering bones. They were uncovering the stories of those who gave their lives for a cause, often with no one left to mourn them. The photograph shows workers standing inside one of the massive pipes that would later be installed at the Hoover Dam during its construction in the early 1930s. These pipes were part of the infrastructure needed to divert the Colorado River and generate hydroelectric power. At the time, the Hoover Dam was one of the largest and most ambitious engineering projects ever undertaken in the United States. It represented an incredible feat of human ingenuity, transforming a barren desert landscape into a key source of water and energy for the western U.S. The image reflects the daring spirit of the workers involved in the project, standing high above ground inside a pipe that would soon channel the force of an entire river. The scale of this construction was unparalleled at the time, and it remains a powerful symbol of human determination to shape the natural world for industrial progress. This photograph captures both the monumental nature of the Hoover Dam project and the brave individuals who contributed to its success, risking their lives to lay the foundation for one of the most important infrastructure projects in U.S. history. This colorized photo captures Captain Walter Whitey Young and his crew proudly posing in front of their B-29 Superfortress during World War II. The plane's nose art, featuring caricatures of the crew members, reveals the light-hearted, personal touches that many crews added to their planes during the intense period of aerial combat. Painted in 1944, the artwork shows the personalities of the soldiers who, despite the war's horrors, found ways to infuse humor into their dangerous missions. These aircraft, flying over enemy territory, carried not just bombs, but also the hopes and fears of the brave men inside, who often formed tight-knit bonds in the skies. For these men, the B-29 was more than just a machine. It was a shared home, a symbol of their fight, and sometimes, tragically, their final resting place. This moment, frozen in time, gives us a glimpse of the camaraderie and humanity behind the war effort. Daredevil Jamie Reynolds, captured in this photo from 1917, showcases the extreme stunts that defined early 20th century performers. Perched dangerously on a rooftop, balancing precariously on a chair and table, Reynolds' daring act was not just for the thrill. It was a testament to the courage and risk that entertained crowds in an era long before modern safety precautions. Stunts like these were a staple of the time, where performers like Reynolds sought to push the boundaries of what seemed humanly possible. His calm demeanor while being mere inches away from a deadly fall makes the image even more striking, serving as a reminder of the sheer audacity of daredevils from this period. The balance between life and death was often just one small misstep away. This stunning portrait of Charles Darwin captures the father of evolutionary theory in a moment of reflection. The soft colors, particularly in Darwin's eyes and aged face, give the impression of a man who carried the weight of radical ideas, changing the course of science and human understanding. His work, particularly on the origin of species, shattered long-held beliefs, proposing the concept of natural selection as the driving force behind the diversity of life on Earth. His theories, controversial at the time, paved the way for modern biology, and even today, Darwin remains one of the most respected and influential figures in science. Darwin's composed yet intense expression in this photograph reminds us of the intellectual revolution he sparked, a calm exterior concealing the turbulent impact of his ideas on society. In the image, he holds a finger to his lips as if to signal a quiet reverence for the enormity of the changes his theories would bring, shaking the foundations of religion, philosophy, and science. This photo, taken by Eddie Adams in 1968 during the Vietnam War, is one of the most famous and shocking images of the conflict. It captures the exact moment when a South Vietnamese general, Nguyen Ngoc Loan, executed a Viet Cong prisoner on the streets of Saigon. The prisoner was suspected of being involved in the killing of a South Vietnamese officer's family. The photo had a profound effect on public opinion about the war, with many seeing it as a stark illustration of the brutal realities of the conflict. Adams later reflected on the complexities behind the image, acknowledging that while the photograph might seem to capture a simple narrative, the broader context was much more complicated. He won a Pulitzer Prize for the image, but the photo haunted him as it captured a moment that represented much more than a single act of violence. It symbolized the futility, chaos, and human cost of war. The Tet Offensive, which was ongoing at the time of the photo, marked a turning point in the Vietnam War, leading many Americans to question U.S. involvement in the conflict. The image remains a powerful reminder of the moral dilemmas and deep human suffering inherent in war. This image captures a demonstration of an early bulletproof vest being tested on September 13, 1932. In Washington, D.C., two men, with one firing a shot directly at the other, are testing the efficacy of the vest, a vital piece of protection for law enforcement and other professionals at the time. This test showcased the growing interest in personal protection equipment, especially as crime rates surged during the early 20th century. These tests were often highly publicized to prove the reliability of the new technology. Early bulletproof vests like the one shown in this image were far bulkier and less effective than today's modern vests, but they were an essential step forward in personal defense innovation. At the time, such public demonstrations served to both reassure law enforcement and the public of the safety these vests could provide in the line of duty. Despite the crude nature of the test, these early vests laid the groundwork for more advanced designs used today by police and military personnel across the world. This image captures miners packed into a narrow elevator shaft, likely during the early 20th century. These miners were descending or ascending from deep within the earth, where they spent long hours extracting coal under perilous conditions. The tightly packed lift reflects the cramped and hazardous work environments that were common in mining. Accidents, collapses, and poor air quality were everyday risks for these workers, underscoring the brutal conditions of early industrial labor. The women in the image likely represent the supportive roles often played by women in mining communities. They may have been responsible for managing logistics, supplies, or other essential tasks. The image is a stark reminder of the human toll behind industrial progress, where the drive for profit often came at the expense of workers' safety and well-being. This scene illustrates the importance of the labor movement that eventually fought for workers' rights and safer conditions. This haunting photograph, the last known image of our MS Titanic, shows the ill-fated ship as it embarked on its maiden voyage. Taken on April 11, 1912, as the Titanic set sail from Queenstown, Ireland, this picture captures the calm before the tragedy. Just 3 days after this image, the ship would strike an iceberg and sink into the freezing Atlantic, leading to the loss of more than 1,500 lives. The sight of this massive, seemingly unsinkable ship against the open ocean serves as a chilling reminder of how quickly fate can turn. While the Titanic was a marvel of engineering and luxury, its story ended in one of the deadliest peacetime maritime disasters in history. The haunting image of American soldiers approaching Omaha Beach on D-Day, June 6, 1944, captures the tense moments before one of the bloodiest battles in World War II. These men, packed tightly into a landing craft, knew they were heading into what would become a deadly onslaught of gunfire, artillery, and chaos on the beaches of Normandy, France. The assault, part of Operation Overlord, was a turning point in the war, marking the beginning of the liberation of Nazi-occupied France. Omaha Beach, in particular, became notorious for the fierce German defense, with Allied forces facing heavy machine gun fire and difficult terrain upon landing. Many soldiers would never even make it off the landing craft, while others would struggle to find cover amidst the carnage. The courage displayed by these troops, despite the overwhelming odds, remains one of the most honored legacies of the war. In this moment, you can almost sense the fear and anticipation in the air, with young men bracing themselves for an event that would forever change the course of history. This remarkable image captures a group of bootblacks, or shoeshine boys, sitting around a weathered Civil War veteran in 1935 Pennsylvania. It offers a nostalgic glimpse into the stark generational divide of the time. The young boys, carrying their shoeshine kits, seem captivated by the stories the old veteran likely tells. These boys, probably born in the early 1920s, are hearing first-hand accounts from someone who lived through one of the bloodiest and most significant conflicts in American history. The contrast between their youthful curiosity and his hardened wisdom is a poignant reminder of how history was often passed down through oral stories before television or widespread access to books. The image also highlights a time when boys like these worked hard to make a living in post-Depression America. It's a snapshot of shared history, where a war that shaped a nation was remembered and discussed, not as a distant memory, but as a living part of people's everyday lives. This photograph shows a unique shoe-shaped promotional car from 1922 used by Peter's Brothers Shoe Repair Shop in San Francisco, California. The car's creative design, shaped like a giant boot, was meant to draw attention and promote their services. Marketing through unusual vehicles like this was quite common in the early 20th century, as businesses sought to stand out in bustling cities. The car is seen parked in front of a Presbyterian church, further highlighting the blending of local business and community life in that era. The craftsmanship of the car itself, with intricate detailing to mimic the form of a real shoe, was an ingenious and eye-catching form of advertising. In this iconic photograph from 1940, a London milkman walks through the devastation caused by a German air raid during the Blitz. Despite the destruction around him, he continues his daily routine, delivering milk to residents. The image captures the resilience and determination of the British people, who carried on with life amid the terror and chaos of war. This milkman, with his calm demeanor, symbolizes the spirit of the time, keeping calm and carrying on, even when the world around seemed to be falling apart. His actions served as a small act of defiance against the horrors of war, showing that life, in some form, would persist. In a city bombed relentlessly, this simple gesture of ensuring that households had milk brought a sense of normalcy and comfort during an incredibly turbulent period. The image shows a beggar, possibly disfigured as a result of injuries sustained during World War I, sitting on the streets of Newark. With his eye patch and deformed facial features, the man may be an unfortunate casualty of war, left to beg in the aftermath. During this time, many veterans returned home physically and mentally scarred, often finding little support for their reintegration into society. This beggar serves as a stark reminder of the long-lasting consequences of war, where even those who survived the battlefield were left to fight battles of a different kind upon their return home. Veterans like this were part of a growing social issue, as many struggled with poverty, homelessness, and the lack of adequate medical care. This photograph captures both the human suffering and the lack of proper societal infrastructure to care for those who had sacrificed so much. This image shows a rather macabre advertisement for accompany, an anti-malarial drug used by the U.S. Army during World War II. The sign dramatically warns soldiers, showing skulls and the bold message these men didn't take their accompany, emphasizing the importance of the drug in preventing malaria, a deadly disease that caused many fatalities in tropical war zones like Papua New Guinea. Accompany was a synthetic alternative to quinine and was crucial in maintaining troop health during campaigns in malaria-endemic regions. Soldiers were often reluctant to take the drug due to its side effects, which included yellowing of the skin and unpleasant physical reactions. However, malaria posed such a serious threat that the Army used powerful campaigns like this one to enforce compliance, ensuring the soldiers understood that not taking accompany could lead to severe illness or death, as depicted starkly in the sign. This image serves as a chilling reminder of the harsh realities faced by soldiers in the Pacific Theater, where disease often proved as lethal as combat itself. As we conclude with this striking image of Kaiser Wilhelm II, it's a fitting moment to reflect on the power, hubris, and inevitable downfall that defined his era. A symbol of German might, the Kaiser led his nation into the First World War, but his ambition and military aggression contributed to the devastation of Europe. In this photo, taken before the war's end, Wilhelm still holds the confidence of a ruler unaware of the approaching tide of defeat. His eventual abdication in 1918 marked the collapse of the German Empire and the dramatic shift of world powers. The conflict left tens of millions dead and scarred the landscape of Europe forever. The war ended, but its consequences echoed in the rise of new regimes and, ultimately, set the stage for an even more destructive conflict just decades later. And with that, we close another chapter of history, bringing these powerful images back to life. Each photo is a window into a world long past, yet still deeply connected to our present. Don't miss the next gripping journey into the untold stories of history. Like, subscribe, and help us keep these stories alive. Stay tuned, stay timeless.